start those segments, Coach. We'll jump into questions.
It's good to see everybody. Really excited about this week. Start off, Scout Team Players of the Week for the last week. On offense was Dylan Shaw, and on defense it was Charles Anderson. Guys gave us great looks, and they both stood out too. We had a Devo scrimmage, our developmental scrimmage on Sunday for the guys that didn't play in the game. I thought both of them looked really good, and there's some other guys that it was exciting to see. Peyton Morgan, of course, had a huge tackle in the game, but he also scrimmaged, had an interception in the scrimmage, really athletic interception. And so these Devo scrimmages and being in a bowl game, we're going to get a lot of snaps and a lot of reps for our young guys, so excited about that. Excited about this week. It's Thanksgiving. It's always great to be playing this time of year. I think there's a lot of things going on campus. We got volleyball, we got men's basketball Friday night, game on Saturdays for Red Raiders. Come on out to West Texas. If you don't live here in Lubbock, come out to Lubbock and catch a lot of games that are going on. And then, man, we need you to make a difference on Saturday. It's a very good West Virginia team. They do a great job of running the football. You're talking about two really good running backs, and they've got a really good quarterback that's going to run the football. And so we've got to do a good job of stopping the run. I think that's the key to the game on the defensive side of the ball. And then, we're going to try to come out and really attack them. They do a really good job of controlling the ball, and they're pretty high as far as time of possession. So every possession is going to count, but we're going to try to tempo and get the ball to our playmakers. And this is big for us. I think everybody knows, to get to 8 wins. You look around and you look at who the tiebreakers. Everybody talks about Arizona State and Iowa State. It's frustrating for me because we got the tiebreaker on both of them that we're not in that conversation. But to get to 8 wins and finish off the season with winning at home in front of our fans are important to us. Senior night, our senior day at 11 a.m., I guess senior brunch. It's going to be a lot of fun. So with that, questions.
Start with Sean.
Coach, you've had success recruiting top 25 classes to Lubbock. Can you explain problems you've discovered in player development that has caused your team to struggle?
I don't think it's player development from the standpoint of, I think some of it's a mixture. Like if you want to go from last year, you play 3 quarterbacks. We've been really lucky this year. We've only had to play 2, and really we've played 1 except for a half. So that makes a difference of where we're at right now. We've got to, I think whenever you're talking about positions, I think that we've got to continue to get better in the offensive line, and we've got to continue to get better at pass defense. Those are the 2 things that show up really all 3 years that we've got to continue to develop those guys. I still, whenever you're talking about offensive line and you're talking about top 25 classes, you're probably going to find 10 freshmen O-linemen that are playing around the country. I mean, I can only think of one that we played against, and that's a kid from Colorado, and he was the number 1 offensive tackle in the country. We haven't played any other freshmen whenever it comes to Power 4, unless they were thrown in there because of injury. They weren't starters. So we're still you got your redshirt freshmen like Dylan Shaw and Danny Seal and Nick Fattig that are really coming. I'm excited about their development. Nick has actually played a little bit in some games. And then you got freshmen like Holton Hendricks, who's had a really good year. Jacob Ponton's played in 2 games. Ellis Davis. I mean, I feel really good about those guys, and then feel good about the guys that are coming in this group. But with that player development, they're coming as far as the offensive line. I think whenever you're looking at our offense and our defense, those are the 2 places that we got to get better at. In the offensive line play, that's why you play close games whenever you're not dominant up front, and then you've got to be much better in the secondary.
You still have a 3.91% chance of making it to the Big 12 title game. What do you want your underclassmen to take from this experience in preparation for the next year and the underclassmen that you mentioned from the offensive line?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny how many teams still have a chance in this conference and in other conferences, and it's funny. Of course, I follow everything, and we all do. If one conference beats up the other conference, then they're a great conference, and then if another conference beats up the other conference, it's a bad conference. And it's college football right now is absolutely crazy. What I want them and the staff and everybody in this building is we have to get better because we have an opportunity. It's a 3% chance, but we had an opportunity to control our own destiny, and we didn't do that. And we've got to examine why we didn't do that, and we have to get better because the opportunity is going to be there again, and we got to take advantage of it. That's where the frustration, I think, from me and everybody in this room and all our fans are. There's a great opportunity, and you got to take advantage of the opportunity whenever they come around.
To some fans, typical Tech is the Red Raider team that wins games they shouldn't and loses games they shouldn't, playing up and down depending on their competition. What changes in the program do you have to make to change those perceptions of the fans?
I think this has been a roller coaster this year. I think to change that, I'll go back to the first two things. We got to be better up front on the offensive line, and that's with personnel, and that is with coaching, and then we've got to be better in pass defense. I mean, if you look at our pass defense, I think we're 125th out of 134. Could be wrong. It could be 133 out of 134. I know we're 125th of something. I don't know. That might be total defense. I was looking, every morning, every Monday morning, I get the updates of special teams, offense, defense, where we're ranked in the Big 12, where we're ranked. Sean Kinney does that for me, and so I was looking at that. So I think it was 125th or 133rd of 134. So those two right there, you're going to have a roller coaster. If you're not good up front on the offensive defensive line, then and don't play well, it's always going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be one-score games, which it has been, and it's going to be nail biters, and then you're going to have a game that you're again not supposed to lose that you lose, and then you're going to have a game that you're not supposed to win that you win. And so it's kind of that stuff like that. We got to keep getting better there.
Go to Justin.
Coach, obviously it's senior day this weekend, but with the roster limits coming next year, quite a few guys, might have the opportunity to, put the pads on again as a Red Raider. I guess, what's this weekend like, knowing that, and I guess what are the challenges that go into roster building with, all the changes that are happening over the next, month?
Yeah, it's an emotional time whenever it's anytime it's senior night, or senior day, because there's some really great Red Raiders. I mean, it's going to be the last time that Taj plays in Jones AT&T Stadium, and Caleb Rogers and Mason Tharp, and then there's some guys that have transferred in that have become, Josh Kelly absolutely loves his time here, Jalen Conyers, guys like that, and so it's going to be emotional. And then there's two big dates. December 9th, there's going to be some decisions made, whether it be the player. And then April 16th, I think, is even a bigger date because that you're getting closer and closer to your 105 that you're going to have to get down to, going into the summer. And so I think those two dates, what you do as a player and how hard you work, and then, do you decide do you stay here or do you decide to go somewhere else and see if a reset or a different opportunity is better for you. Either way, with that, I'm always going to try to help the players out. If there's guys that, decide to get in the portal on December 9th, I'm going to try to help them find a place. I want them to be able to go somewhere and play. And then, April 16th, I look at April 16th as kind of even the bigger date whenever it comes to some guys that are going to have an opportunity to show in off season and in spring football what they can do and that they have a spot on the team. And so I think that's a bigger date than for December 9th. It's going to be a bigger date of like us acquiring some people, December 4th and December 9th.
Looking into this weekend, you mentioned stopping the run, what they're able to do, and it's a lot of misdirection, eye candy
Yeah.
with the spinner stuff that they have, and just the quarterback run, something you guys have kind of struggled with in your tenure. I guess how do you preach eye discipline and being ready to tackle against these guys?
Yeah, they do a lot of that. You're going to get motion almost in every play, a lot of shifts, and burst from, they might be a little bit in three back and then burst into a spread formation. Number one, getting lined up, getting our feet in the ground, and then it has to go back to, again, two things: gap, and like your gap sound, you're owning your gap. There was a couple times we have plays played on Saturday night and we push out of our gap. The ball hasn't, and then there's a couple times like Trey McAlpin made a big play. I think Rigsby made a big play. Chuck made a big play to where they owned their gap. The ball was now not coming to that gap, and they did it at the right time and it made a tackle at the line of scrimmage. That's going to be big. And then tackling as a whole in space, we got to do a good job. I mean, the one good thing, if you look at something we have done well this year, we've been good at stopping the run throughout 4 quarters. I mean, that's one of our strengths of the defense, and so I think it's really important for us to get lined up, and it's going to be huge of, hey, that's not my job. I cannot allow motion to take my eyes away from where my job is and owning my gap.
Go ahead, Jared.
Going into the season, we talked about struggles on the road, winning on the road. That was a narrative. Finished with a winning record on the road. How were y'all able to achieve that this year?
I think our guys' maturity. I think the Taj has a lot to do with that. His maturity and his leadership, and then just I think at different times the first 2 years, making it more about the road and making it more about maybe where we were playing versus we talk. We're on the road, good football travels, make it about the football, like making more plays than the other team, and not focusing on the environment and everything like that, but making it more about the football. And the guys really bought into that, and it is really good. Now it's got to, hopefully we got over the hump, and it's got to carry over next year. Every year's a different team and a different way they're going to handle things, but I think that's really important. I mean, I think that's why it's important to win Saturday, because we've kind of done a little bit of the opposite, where we've played really good at home. In our last 2 games, we have not played really good at home, or have not been able to finish the game a few weeks ago against Colorado. And so I think it's important to end the season with a victory at home.
You mentioned some of the dates coming up with the transfer portal and all that. What is the process like, and maybe how has it changed with kind of the professionalism of college football in terms of how y'all make decisions or not?
I was talking to Gunny. We talked for a long time pregame, and it's crazy. I've been coaching college football for 8 years. Whenever I got into college football, there was still only one signing date, and that was in February. And in 8 years, football has changed that much, and it's going to change even more. And I would think probably in the last 8 years, college football has changed more than the history of college football. Whenever you're talking about those decisions, I think you still got to, do it the right way. You got to communicate with the coaches. You got to communicate with the parents. You got to communicate with the players. But it's also, it's crazy. December 9th, Al Luganbill said this, and I might have already said this to y'all, but on December 9th, and think if the NFL was operated this way. On December 9th, every single kid that plays college football is going to be a free agent. Every single player in the country on December 9th is going to be a free agent. And that's crazy. I don't know how you think that that's sustainable and that's how we're going to operate, but right now that's how we're going to operate, and I think we have a really good plan. We've targeted positions that we feel like are of need. We've also, we don't want to be doing it in April, but we were glad that there were 2 windows this first year where we're going to 105, because that gives you a chance in spring football to kind of see, hey, were we right? And it's already started. I mean, y'all see there's already, with the Ivy Leagues, kind of their season ending, you already have guys from that group taking visits and stuff like that. And so December, I'm glad they made it dead after this weekend because we've got a couple visitors coming in. But I'm glad it's dead so we could concentrate on our roster, transfer portal, and whoever we're going to play in the bowl game.
I know you're focused on this week, but just kind of big picture, do you have an idea, ballpark, how many guys y'all might take in the
I
transfer
think
portal?
there'll be 10. I think there'll be 10.
Go ahead, Nathan.
So then, just since you're kind of talking, look, you're basically going from 4-year, 5-year commitments to everybody's kind of on this 1-year contract. How does that kind of change you guys, your approach, not just recruiting, but how you handle things day to day to kind of make sure that's sustainable for you guys?
Well, I look at it as kind of two different ways. And what we've tried to do in the portal is find old guys that have played a lot of football. And when we're going after those guys and still believe in the high school development. Our class number 2 and class number 3 were big classes, and we feel good about those classes. This class is a little bit smaller, but it's only because of the numbers, of the numbers of guys that we're losing. It could be bigger if, we know that somebody's getting in the portal. We kind of really don't know that until the next week and stuff like that, but it could be bigger, but it couldn't be that much bigger number-wise. So I look at it two different ways. I look at I want to recruit high school guys. I want them to be Red Raiders for 4 to 5 years. We want to create a culture that they want to be here and they know they're being developed. And then we also want to fill in the spaces with older guys that have played a lot of football, that have been successful, that are ready to play right now. And so we look at it with those two things. Now, it is going to be interesting because they are going to allow us to do multi-year contracts. And so I think that could, keep some guys to where you're not just everybody's a free agent after 1 year, but you also got to be really careful. I think a little bit of that of you got to make sure you are good with that person being here for 2 years or 3 years, and those are the guys you want to develop. But I kind of look at it, though, the two things. I want to develop these high school guys, and then I want to go get old guys that have played a lot of football.
Go tired. Right side.
Coach, you've talked a lot about high care factors in your players. How do you identify that during the high school recruiting, transfer reporter recruiting, and then just the developmental time while they're with the Red Raiders?
Especially in the state of Texas, it's easier at the high school level because we know so many high school coaches, and feel really good and can trust them. You've got to talk to the high school coaches, and some of the things is like, does this guy love football? We want guys that love football because it's hard. And then the transfer portal, it's like somebody said it the other night. Somebody asked me, it's like speed dating. It really is. It's you've got to ask all the questions. Hopefully you know somebody on the staff that they're coming from that will give you an honest answer, that they're not upset that they're leaving, because sometimes you don't get an honest answer. And then, you got to try to see what kind of connections you have with them, their parents, where they're from, and what they really want, like what they're trying to get out of the transfer. And that's a tougher one. But I mean, we've really, Caleb Douglas and Josh Kelly and Jalen Conyer and John Carlos Miller. I could keep going, but those guys, man, they fit what we want. And I think they would tell you that they're going to identify with Texas Tech more than they'll identify with any other place they've been. Josh Kelly and I've talked about that a couple times. He feels that he is a Red Raider. Whenever it's all said and done, he goes and gets drafted in the NFL. The place he's going to come back to go see his old team play is going to be Texas Tech, because he's really fallen in love with this place. Vinny Scurry, man, it's really cool. The kid's coming back. He'll get another year medical, but the reason he is coming back and not going in the transfer portal is a kid from Ohio, is he absolutely loves this place, and so you're trying to identify guys, but it's tough because it's speed dating. You got December 9th until I think it's December 28th, and you got to figure out if they're really supposed to be here and do they fit your culture.
And in terms of the guys you have around you, personnel-wise, how do you identify that those coaches have that similar character trait?
Yeah, I mean, it's a group effort. We have a personnel department, but it's a group effort as a coaching staff that we all believe, and it's my job to set that vision and the culture of like this is who we are, and I think for the most part, our guys have really bought into that. Our coaches have really bought into that.
And then a little off topic, Gino Garcia mentioned last week that he's got a moving or a concrete business and a roofing business, and you've helped him out a little bit with that. Can you speak, one, to his character that he can do that while being a football player, and two, just what you've done to help him?
Yeah, it's really more Texas Tech and this university, because that's a great thing about this place, man. If you're a Red Raider, I mean, you think about different businesses and how many people own businesses, and the Red Raiders are part of their employees or their partnership. And so I think we're very open. The thing with us, we're open to families, our players' families coming to practice. We're open to Texas high school coaches, lettermen, and alumni. And so there's been a lot of alumni that have been at our practices that do a lot of different things. And so for him to start already building that network is going to make a big difference in what he does.
Go ahead, Cole.
Coach Barron about to start his 12th game of the season. I don't think any of us gave him much of a chance to do that after what happened the past couple of years. How proud of him are you, and how big is it just for this team to have that stability finally at quarterback?
Yeah, it's I'm really proud of him because he had to do a lot of things to get to this point. With that shoulder and his body, and it shows one. And we knew this last year with him playing through stuff that he didn't get to practice all week and would go out and win a game for us. That how tough he was, mentally and physically. But then he really had to commit himself even more with shoulder rehab, shutting him down in the spring, making that choice and making that the right choice. And then the way he's come out and played, the way he's protected the football is very productive. I was proud that Matt got the stats right, because I know Taj wasn't 2 or 3 on the other night in the game, and him coming out and throwing for 404 yards and the touchdowns he threw for, and he's just, man, he is so much fun to coach and so much fun to be around, because you're talking about a guy that absolutely loves this place. And that's what you're looking for when you're talking about, you're looking for dudes that are like him, that just have such a high care factor, and it's just he's in it for the right reasons. But I'm proud of him, and it's made a difference. It's why we have a chance to get to 8 wins. It's because we've had consistency at the quarterback position.
At the end of the game, it looked like there was some kind of altercation between you and Kenny Perry. Can you elaborate on what happened there?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question. Number one, we didn't break up. We're still best friends. Debbie got a ton of text, and that was their comment. Did they break up? My coaching staff, my old coaching staff, there's 20 of us on a text group at Cedar Hill that we were together. I was lucky to have the same coaching staff for so long. And there was a number of us together for 14 to 16 years, and they loved it because they know Kenny very well, because we coached against each other. There's actually some games that we actually did that exact same thing, but yelling at each other on the sideline. But it was just, the heat of the moment. There was a lot of things that went on right there at the end of the game. 4 timeouts for a opposing team. Different things like that, and again, my level of frustration, and then what we were just trying to do is trying to get I was a little worried that Knox was going to snap the ball before 1 second, so we get the timeout, and so he was telling me, I know that. I was telling him, I don't think you know that, and then it went into a lot of other stuff. But if you'd have seen us after the game in the locker room, if you'd have seen us the week before, I actually did it and poked the bear to get us going a little bit on special teams. And then this one was just trying to make sure that we were going to take that timeout with 1 second on the clock.
Go ahead, Emily.
So can't believe it. End of the season's pretty much already here. So looking back, I know there's been a lot of changes to college football. You were touching on it earlier. What are some things that you've been really proud of that you've seen, from this team throughout the season? And what are some characteristics that maybe you weren't so happy about that you're looking to change next year?
Yeah, I'm really proud of of course I want to go undefeated in every game, but I want to go undefeated on the road. But I'm proud that we've won in some tough environments. Going to Iowa State again and weather, raining at the end. I didn't realize how hard it was raining at the end. It wasn't like a monsoon or anything, but winning on the road there against an undefeated team. Oklahoma State's not having the year that they want to have, but Tech's won in Stillwater 3 times. I told Clay McGuire he's the secret sauce because he's been a part of all 3 of them as a player and a coach. So I'm proud that we did that and had to overcome some things. And then, I think that we have to – there's some things, of course, that I have to be better. We have to be better up front on both sides of the ball. And then we have to take advantage of our opportunities. Like at the end of the day, we're going to take care of business on Saturday, and we're going to go into a bowl game. Our expectations would be 8-4 and having the opportunity to get to that 9th win. And I'm going to be a lot of sleepless nights being very frustrated that we're not playing in the Big 12 championship, because there is a really good chance that Arizona State and Iowa State are playing in that game. We beat both of them, but they did a better job of taking advantage of some of their opportunities to be able to play in that game. It could be BYU, could be Colorado. Like you said, 3.9% chance that it's us. There's a lot of things that have to happen, but that's the thing. And so what do you got to do to do that? You got to be a tougher team. We got to be more physical. We've got to do a better job of not having nicks and bruises, putting good body weight on to where we've got more guys playing every single week. I mean, it's a total program. Everybody look in the mirror and see how we've got to get better. And then at the end of the year, when really at the end of this week, you really take a step back, and we've been doing this, but do we have to change some places? Do we have to make some changes, or do we have to make some additions to the staff for us to be better to get over the hump of playing in a Big 12 championship?
We've talked about it a lot, how insane this season of college football has been. And a lot of people are accrediting it to because there's been almost like a spread of wealth. You don't have all of these really good players almost locked into one university. They're transferring, they're hitting the portal, they're doing all this stuff. So I know you said you have your high school recruits.
Yep.
I know you have some people maybe you're eyeing out there in December. But for the players maybe aren't on your radar, they're they're wanting to leave their university, and Texas Tech is maybe one of those schools. They're like, what about this? What would you say to them? Why this university? Why this program? Why come here for next season?
Well, number one, you're coming to the greatest university in the country. You're going to get a true fan base that cares about this program. You're going to play in front of a sellout crowd. It is a phenomenal environment. You're going to have the opportunity to be developed into an NFL player, because the majority of the older guys, you're going to have some guys that enter the portal, and they're going to enter the portal because they're looking for player time. The guys that we're really looking for, the older guys, we're going to be able to show that we're going to get guys into NFL camps. We're going to get guys drafted. We have the last 2 years. We're about to do it again with the guys that came in. We're going to talk about that. We are really lucky that we have an administration that's going to share at the highest revenue level, whether we like it or not. That is now part of the selling. And so you've got a university that has that and is going to back us with that. And I think the one thing about this place and the one thing about the teams that are winning, like in Oregon, I'm a big fan of Dan Lanning's. Guys like that, they are able to develop a really healthy culture. I think that we have a very healthy culture. And so I think you're going to come into a place to where the locker room is a great place to be, And then part of it, when they come on this campus, they're about to see the best facility in the country. I mean, I can't wait for it to be totally open to where this group, and I'll lead the tour. We'll get Huff to help us lead the tour because he's an expert, because he's put so much time in part of this building. But I can't wait for y'all to see it. I mean, it's insane. We'll give you 2 minutes, not 30 minutes on the sensory beds and stuff like that. But, like, it really is. Like, everything, whenever you talking about Texas Tech, it's the best of the best. And so every box that they're going to check is going to check off here. And, you know, and it is, man, it's just an absolutely incredible place to be.
With Jeff and Don.
Coach, you talked a little bit about West Virginia's offense and that they're a ball control type when they're going to want to run the ball. What have you seen from the defensive side of the ball that you feel like you guys have to deal with?
You know, they made a change in the defense coordinator position a couple of weeks ago, but they're still structurally still an odd defense. I mean, it's really not an odd stack. It's more of a true 3-4 defense. You know, they play extremely hard. You know, and they got bowl eligible. They did a really good job of stopping UCF, who's been able to run the football. So they've done a good job against the run. And we still got to be able to run the football. I mean, we all know the key to our offense is getting Taj going, and he ends up making big plays. But we're going to have to tackle him in the passing game. I think that they play with a lot of energy. I think the change gave, you know, them some extra juice. And the other thing that they've done, they caused a turnover against Cincinnati, I think, that led to 7 points. But, like, I mean, not Cincinnati, but UCF. But if you go back to the Cincinnati game, 14 points of that game, and I think it was a 10-point game, but 14 points of that game came off of defensive turnovers. I think there was a pick six, and then I think there was a strip sack, fumble, return for a touchdown. And so they've been a little bit like us as far as taking advantage of takeaways.
And with senior day, as you've been a head coach through high school and now here, how has it changed, and who is it harder on, you and Debbie or the players?
You know, I think it's Debbie will cry more probably. I'll get a little teary-eyed, I'm sure, with a lot of these guys. But, I mean, I think it's a mixture. I think, you know, you've got some guys that have been here for their entire career. So I think there's a lot of memories, you know, and so I think that's going to be I think there's going to be a lot of emotion. But I think it's a mixture, you know. I think the one thing I do, I'll you know, it's kind of like the question that we asked earlier. I mean, I do think that we have a very healthy culture, you know, and I think guys love coming into this building and care about each other. So I think there's going to be a lot of emotion. I think there's emotions in that locker room of guys that aren't seniors that really want to send these seniors out on the right note. So, you know, we got to take a deep breath and have the emotion before the ball's kicked off, and then get to the football. Still got to make it about the football.
I know that you have been instructed not to discuss the officiating, but can you share with us the explanation you got at the end of the game when the clock was stopped and no one really understood what was going on?
Yeah, if you kind of go back, and we actually are waiting on the explanation as far as but in the game. Taj's helmet came off, but put that over here. They are awarded a timeout. So Oklahoma State takes a timeout. Both teams go, and then we're coming out of the timeout. Because there was a timeout, we send Taj back in the game. We were told that break was because Taj's helmet came off. Well, that's not how everything operates. You know, if y'all all have seen helmets come off, guy comes running off the field, you stop the clock, but then you start the clock back, and should have been a 10-second runoff. That was never discussed. So my point was, you know, I didn't understand how there was a timeout awarded, but then they got the timeout back, and the explanation was because the player's helmet came off. It was the longest helmet coming off and running somebody out there on the field I've ever been a part of. I've never seen that. But, you know, we talk about the craziness of college football. There's a lot of stuff the world of officiating. Like, I've never seen a back judge throw a flag 5 minutes later on a quarterback hit like happened in the Pitt Clemson game. I've never seen that. It was the right call, but I'd be like, how'd that guy see that? Well, he had to be looking at the Jumbotron and go, oh, man, this is really bad. Let's get this right. So I think that's another thing, just not to get on the soapbox or anything like that, but I think there's got to be, when we're talking about the game changing, there's got to be a lot of discussion going into the off season on how we can be better as a whole whenever it comes to that. And a lot of it is just, I think, the mechanics of the game and the help that they could get from the replay booth and what we in the Big 12 call the Rock, which is the replay booth in Dallas. We're not using it enough, and it could be because it's not right for operations, or it's, there's no rules. Not saying that. It's just hasn't been done. So I just want to get it right. Even if I disagree with it, just when I turn on the film and I see, hey, they got the call right. Everybody can live with it.
Finish this up, Todd.
Joey, next Wednesday, the number of guys that you expect to sign is
16.
What? Okay.
Now we could get to 18. I think right now we're at 16, but we've got a few visitors coming in. There's a couple guys out there too that we're in the mix of their a couple national recruits that are game changers. So, there's always that thing of like, if this guy wants to come to Texas Tech, we're going to find a place for him, and so there's some guys like that out there. But right now we're at 16.
And regarding the portal, you said a moment ago that the number of players that you want to add is 10. Can you go over position by position and talk about, in other words, you want X number at receiver, X number at DB, X number at offensive line, so forth?
Yeah, I could go pretty quick. I think we want to, quarterback, we're not looking at anything. We would like to add an older back. A couple of reasons. We've got a guy that's going to come off of a knee injury, and so how does he come back from that? We've got 2 true sophomores that are coming in that have played really well for us this year, true freshmen, Jacoby and Cam Dickey. But in that room, you lose Taj, so you at least want to have 4 guys. So we'll look at an older guy. You really don't want that room to be Cam Valdez, which would do a great job, but he's coming off a knee injury, 2 sophomores and a true freshman. So that's why I say we're going to look for an older back. Really not looking, unless something crazy happens, not looking in the receiver room. Although if something, number 1 receiver in the country for some reason says he's in the portal, and I don't know who that would be, but we're not looking for that. Tight end, we'd like to add a tight end just for that room, an older guy that's played a lot of football. 2 to 3 O-linemen. 2 to 3 defensive tackle / edge guys, and then corner, possibly 2 corners and an older safety, and then we also have to look at a kicker, just from the standpoint we're losing Gino. I think everybody saw Stone's leg as far as the kickoff. I think the first kickoff he nearly kicked it out of the stadium. And fired up about Stone, man. The kid's done a great job, but we got to look at that too. It'd be great for that guy to be a combo guy, because we'd like for him to be able to kick and punt, just to have a backup for Jack. Although Baron Morton can kick and punt, and is probably as good as anybody. So
You said you looked at April 16th was the key day. Do you have to be at 105 then on April 16th?
No, but I don't want the one thing that we're not going to do is we're going to be real honest with every one of our players, and we want to give our guys opportunities if it's a situation where they feel. So April 16th actually opens up the second window, and so that gives us a lot of time. And whenever you're in the world that we're in right now, and this is the hardest thing for, I think, most coaches that are in it for the right reasons. It changes a lot, like how much time you actually have a window to develop and show that you're developing as a player, but then also at the end of the day, you have as a coach, I have a responsibility to this university, to field the best team that I can field. And so, and whenever it gets to revenue sharing, it becomes much more of a business than it ever has been. And so I want to give my guys an opportunity to show what they can do. I want to give them an opportunity also if they're stuck 3 or 4 deep and they feel like they got to go somewhere else. So that second window is going to be a big window too.
Before you get to December 9th, what day or days have you kind of set aside to have the conversations with guys? Yeah,
we'll start, and really we start the season-ending meetings with everybody Monday. So we've done it the last 2 years. We'll do it like we always done. Because you're also going to have some meetings of. I'll give you a example of like a guy like Jacob Rodriguez. He's. Especially if he has another game like he's had. I mean, there's going to be a decision that he has to make, and we've done this. We did it with Taj last year. We did it with Tony and Boog. We did it with Miles Cole. Guys that have those decisions to where they can declare for the draft and are good enough to play at the next level. We've got to have those decisions of this is what the scouts are those conversations. This is what the scouts say you are, where you're at. If you want to come out, declare, or if you come back, you have a chance to push your draft grade up. We did it the very first year with Tyree Wilson right after the bowl game. We'll start having those conversations. We did it after the bowl game because I was brand new and, we were gathering information for Tyree, but we've been doing that all year long. We have every NFL team sends multiple scouts. I mean, we'll have one today, but we've had every NFL team. So when they come through, we give them all the information for them, but we're also gathering information of where they see these guys and possibly what round they could be drafted.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank y'all.
You guys kept him hostage in here, I guess.
Yeah. Let's try to keep it to 1 or 2 questions. Coach, just get this back on track. Who wants to start? Jared. Coach, just West Virginia as a whole, it's a lot of eye candy in the run game and motion, all that stuff. I guess how important is eye discipline as a group this week?
Oh, it's huge. You hit the nail on the head as far as the eye candy. They do a really nice job, but from a schematic standpoint, trying to get you distracted. But really, the things that are salient to me are they've got 2 excellent running backs and really a nice 1-2 punch. And in number 1 is shorter guy, really good burst, vision, hard to tackle, and then you got Donaldson, who's a downhill bruiser. And so that combination, but really the one that, in my opinion, makes it all work is when they get Green involved in the running game, because now you add, an extra blocker. They do a great job with the power read series. They're going to get an empty and quarterback draw it, get you spread out and, try to get seams. And he does a really nice job. We saw the other day, we're going through our personnel reports. He's running 21 plus miles an hour in a game, and that's legit speed. So there's a reason they have 7+ explosive runs a game, which is one of the top 10 teams in the country that as far as explosive runs. So our hands are going to be full there, and we got to do a great job with our eyes so that we can fit right.
Obviously, it wasn't y'all's best performance on Saturday, but I was impressed with the younger defensive tackles that you guys had to go to, and having to, when you lose those older guys that you guys have been leaning on. I guess could you evaluate those younger defensive tackles?
Yeah, the young guys I think have a lot of talent. They're playing hard. Braylon made some plays, but he'll be the first to admit he's also misfit some of his gaps and created some issues that we've got to get cleaned up and make sure that he's more disciplined and doing the things he's supposed to do all the time. Because when he does do his assignment right, he can be a really good playmaker for us. But I was happy to see not necessarily a younger guy, but James Hansen go in and make a play, really get off and get a sack out of a 3-man rush, which we hadn't had a bunch of, and he's got enough bulk and experience that he's going to have to step up now, with some of our injury situations. So we're going to keep coaching our guys that we have, and Jaden's got to step up and continue to play hard. He's getting better as the year goes on, and hopefully Braylon will keep coming on.
Coach, you just mentioned some of the defensive linemen that need to step up. Are there any other players who perhaps haven't played a lot this year that might have a bigger role Saturday?
We're at that point now where a lot of the freshmen are starting to get more reps, and so we're going to be looking at different positions of, possibly getting guys involved, especially in some areas that we've got some guys dinged up, and give them a shot to see what they can do. The last few weeks we've been having young guys scrimmages on the weekends, and guys are showing up on that, and it's like, okay, if they're showing that they're absorbing the calls and can make plays against our guys, maybe they're going to get a shot on Saturday as well.
Jacob Rodriguez, just what has he meant to the team and the defense this year?
Well, it's no surprise that he was selected a captain during the offseason, and I guess the only surprise is that Coach, I don't think he's ever done that before, named that many guys that early in a year. Usually you go through a spring ball and see who emerges, but he's been a leader, since he's gotten here. We knew he hadn't played a ton of football at linebacker, but he's just a very intelligent guy. It's extremely important to him. He puts the work in. He does all the little things you ask him to do. When we do drill work, he takes particular pride in not just making tackles, but going after the football. He made the 2 big plays that made the difference in the game, on Saturday, and getting the touchdown and then the game sealer with the interception. So you look at, particularly the games we won, he's usually got his stamp making plays that made the difference in the game.
How do you evaluate the defense this year as a whole after the reloading, and how do you feel right now?
I knew we were going to be a work in progress. You're playing with a lot of younger guys. It's not an excuse. It's just where we're at. And so we've at times played well and at times played really poorly. And that's not, acceptable, and we've got to correct that. And, the standards don't change. I've been impressed with how hard our guys play, but we've got to get them to play smarter, or I've got to do things, a different way. So, I'll leave it to Coach McGuire to grade us, but as far as what I want to see is our guys getting better each week. I knew we would be better in November than we were in September. But with the injuries, guys got to now take on additional roles and get additional snaps, and maybe they didn't think they were going to have to early in the year. And we've got to get our guys to step up and do that.
Well, you said that you would let Coach McGuire grade it, but how would you grade the improvement from the defensive line, the linebackers, and the safeties this year?
I think early on we weren't getting enough pressure and creating a lot of negative plays. We've gotten better at that up front. In the secondary, we're still having issues with our eye discipline and tackling. We've had some guys banged up, which when you have guys banged up and they don't practice full during the week, it's hard to – and again, not an excuse, it's just where we're at. When we put guys out there on Saturday, they've got to play. And we've got to continue to work within what we have to get our guys to be able to tackle better, or find guys that can practice hard and put them out there and see what they can do.
Anything else for Coach before we let him go? All right, thank you. Who would like to start us? Sean?
When the offense struggles, fans make you the whipping boy. What have you seen from Barron and the rest of the offense that has shown you that you're peaking right when you need to?
Yeah, I mean, I think of first and foremost, it was probably one of the better games we've been able to put together this last week. Clearly we had the bye week to try to figure some stuff out, but man, it was just a couple plays here and there, and I felt like we played a pretty good game offensively. We were able to, eliminate some pre-snap penalties, which is coming a long way, in this season, and being able to do that in week 11, I thought was huge for us, or game 11. And, I thought Barron, again, man, we kind of got back to what Barron is really comfortable with. Barron likes to play fast, likes to throw it around the yard, and I thought he was really comfortable. And we knew we were going to get some man coverage and be able to hit some guys in some one-on-ones. I thought he delivered the ball pretty well all night.
So how do you evaluate the offense this year as a whole?
Yeah, there's clearly areas to get better. The couple games there we've taken some sacks we don't need to take, but I'm not going to sit here and feel like we had a terrible year. I'll tell you that. We've done some really good stuff. We've gotten better. I think clearly it helps having a quarterback healthy and having some skill players that were kind of starting all year for us. Again, we've got to continue to get better up front. It's struggled having to shuffle some guys around as the season's gone a little bit here and there, having some different guys, especially on that left side, playing in and out. Center, right guard, right tackle has been pretty consistent for us since those first two games. But man, I'm excited for the future here and what we're doing, and some of these young guys coming up, and I think it's been a pretty solid year for us.
McGuire talked last week about pulling you back. Do you feel like this offense is better when it's more aggressive and faster?
Yeah, depending on who you're playing, I felt like it was a great week this last week to go be aggressive, just with how they play schematically. This week's going to be different. I know they're going to try to keep the ball away from us. They're going to want to try to make this a 21-24 type game. And again, it's my job to try to help win games too. We all want to score 50 points a game, and I would love to do that as well. But at the end of the day, Coach McGuire tells us every staff meeting, find a way to win the game, whatever that means. And that's what my job is. And so, again, man, I'd love to score 50 this week. They're aggressive on the defensive front. They like to drop 8 in coverage too. So we're going to try to play fast and do some of that stuff. But at the same time, keeping in mind, let's go win the football game at all costs. But again, I think just week in and week out, if you can find those games where you're gonna be able to be aggressive and throw the ball downfield a little bit more based off what you're getting coverage wise, I think is good. When you're getting some drop 8 and some stuff like that, it may not be as beneficial. Because again, when you go back and you watch a lot of the tempo stuff we did was more tempo pass plays than the tempo runs. We had a couple short yardage tempo runs that were good for us and got us first downs, and we needed first downs. But we're going to go fast. It's much more trying to put the ball in the air.
Justin, Jarrett, then Cole.
Coach, could you just touch on Barron's day on Saturday, and then obviously I'm curious about what you saw on the interception throw. It was 0 frame and then roll to 3 of a safety come out of nowhere. I guess could you just talk about both of those things?
Yeah, I thought overall he played good. He had one of his higher graded games. Which again, we had a lot of first downs, and he put the ball in the end zone and operate at a really high level, especially those first few drives. I felt like, man, the interception is one where, we got the win, and so you can laugh a little bit about it. And him and I had meetings yesterday, but man, we had a really good call on, and he thought they were going to go true cover 0, and so we were going to try to throw it to Jacoby right now on the 0 look up the seam, and they bailed out, and it kind of spooked him whenever he could have just still thrown it to Jacoby right now and probably gotten 15, 20 yards. And it was one of those deals where the safety rotates late, and he really faded Kells too far inside of the middle of the field. They went a cover 3 structure, like you said, and he's got to put that ball a little bit more outside in the seams. So clearly that wasn't a great play there for him. But overall, I thought he played good. A couple times, he had thrown a slant to Jalen Connors over the middle. We came back with the exact same play. They go cover 0, and he saw it, and he's looking at him, and he just holds on to the ball too long and takes a sack there. But other than that, man, I thought he did a pretty good job. You look up and CD had 2 on the sideline that would have been another 50 yards passing. He had Coy down the sideline we're just right there having even some more explosive plays on the perimeter. So I thought he did a good job. Like I talk to him all the time, just give those guys chances on the perimeter, and I thought he did a really good job, and probably had his best game of the season.
Some of those shorter yardage runs you guys had, I noticed you flipped your guards. Could you speak on that decision and why that was ultimately what you chose to do?
Yeah, man, we felt like in the scheme that we had, we're running a G scheme on one of them and then a power scheme on the other, and we just feel like Davion Carter's our best pulling guy. So we wanted to make him the puller, and it's kind of just a schemed up play where we run each one. You have a weak side run, a strong side run, and that's just what we did where they both end up pulling. So we bumped him over for that, and it was good for us.
Coach, Mason, Conyers, JC, all were heavily involved, and then Taj is involved in the passing game as well as he has all year. Was that a plan going in to the game, or did it just unfold like that?
That's just how it unfolds, man. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I know, you look up every game and those tight ends haven't had as many catches as we'd like for them to have, and it's never been because we're not trying to get them the ball or whatever. It just hasn't gone their way, and it was one of those games where, we're lining up in some tempo plays, and just where those guys line up, we're getting the matchups that he would have taken if it was Josh Kelly would have been there. We're throwing the ball there, and it was just, but hey, it's Mason on a switch vertical up the seam. We didn't complete it. It's a Mason Tharp on a deep inside fade a couple plays later that we get a PI on. We slid him through the flat on a first down, and he caught a 5-yard pass, and it was just kind of one of those games, man. I was fired up for those guys, man. Like, again, talk about just unselfish guys, man. Mason Tharp hadn't had a touchdown all season long, and if you guys really dive in and watch that guy play football, you talk about a guy that loves Texas Tech, loves his teammates, man. He hadn't said a word all year, so that one I was fired up for that one because he's a guy that deserves more touchdowns than he's gotten. So I was excited for those guys, man. Jalen came in and did his thing. He did a really good job blocking for us too, man. I mean. So excited about those guys, and we knew, we were curious to see. Again, we had to have the cover 2 plan based off what we'd gotten from Colorado, and a couple times we went fast, and those guys were bailing out. And I told Barron, I said, if they go cover 2, I said, put it on Taj right now, and he put it on Taj, and they weren't all huge plays. We had the one clearly right before halftime there, but man, just being able to get 5 to 8, 9 yards on a first down call is a game changer for a play caller and just for your offense moving forward. So really proud of all those guys. Like I said, man, I mean, I thought everybody that was out in the routes did their job, and the ball was kind of spread around pretty evenly, I felt like.
You mentioned Barron's overall performance, but that run late in the game that moved the chains, I'm just curious what your thought process was going into that call and what the actual call was.
Man, so we started out with it's one of them deals where what are they going to do? They're going to bail them all out of there and try to, but we also have Taj Brooks, so are they going to play a light box? And so initially we actually had called a screen initially, and then after thinking about it, we haven't ran Barron a whole lot like true called quarterback runs. He's pulled some zones and some stuff like that, and man, it was just kind of a late call for us there where quarterback draw. They won't probably be expecting that because we haven't ran it all year, and again, there's not a whole lot of quarterback called runs this year. And he did a really good job. I thought the guys on the perimeter did a good job, and man, he made that one guy miss probably 3 yards ahead of the chains and got it, and that was a huge play for us, just to keep trying to milk the clock, and at the end of the day, at that point in the game, that's all the goal was, just get out of there with the win.
Colton, Zach.
With Barron about to start his 12th game of the season, it's been a while since that's happened at Texas Tech. How big is that, not just for him, but for your offense to have that stability and going forward, knowing that he can play 12 games?
Yeah, huge. I mean, I think when you look at statistically, where we're ranked right now across the country, we're the best we've been since I've been here. And I think there's, clearly it's pretty obvious it helps being able to play one guy in every game, other than a half, and in that one half, Will did come in and did his thing and played well too. So, but man, I'm so proud of that kid, man. I mean, you see him back there, my man takes some shots at times and he gets back up, man, and he's ready to go. And just his mental and physical toughness that he brings to the table, his leadership that he's bringing to the table. I mean, it's been really fun for me to walk in here and see the redshirt freshman that is about as green as you could find a guy from small town Eastland, Texas, and watch his growth right now. And exciting for me is I still know how much room for growth there still is. And so I think the best is yet to come for him. And him being able to watching what he had to go through all off season, through the summer, through fall camp, through what we're doing in practice right now to make sure he stays healthy. He's been diligent in that process, and we've all worked together from the strength staff to the training staff to us, how we practice, all those things. But that takes a lot from him on an individual basis of doing those things, getting his rehab in, and all those things that he's had to do from again, after the bowl game to where we're at now it's really impressive, and that's what I'm proud of him. Just seeing the maturation of him as a young man and a guy that loves football and loves Texas Tech more than anything, wants to win football games around here. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm proud of him.
Go ahead, Zach.
Coach, entering the final regular season game with Taj Brooks, and Coach mentioned earlier that throughout this upcoming offseason, he's hoping to maybe target a veteran presence, maybe in that running back room for next year. Have you thought about offense again outside of Taj Brooks, perhaps for the future?
Yeah, I mean, in what we do, man, you always got to be looking ahead a little bit. You don't want to get too far ahead, but especially when you're kind of at this point, and 2 weeks ago on the second bye week, you start looking at some things that you maybe want to try in bowl practice, and moving some guys around and getting some guys in different looks and some stuff like that. But as far as exactly not having Taj, I haven't dialed that much in yet, because that's going to be a sad day for me. But man, it's going to be different not having him. I can tell you that. I mean, you talk about the heartbeat of this offense, and I mean, you saw what he did Saturday, man. I mean, he's unbelievable. Just everything. I mean, everything he brings to the table. Run the football, pass protection's unbelievable. Some of the blitzers he picked up in that game, man. If you really go back and watch it, it's second to none that I've been around. And then catching the football. I mean, that seam route we hit up right before the halftime. I mean, that was a lot of fun, and for him to be able to have a big play like that in the pass game is really fun for us too. So it's going to be a lot different without him, I can promise you that. Not looking forward to that day, but again, excited for the future. I love those two young guys we have, and we'll see kind of where we go after that.
Any final questions? All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you all.